Hey everybody, Zac Buchanan here. Just wanted to thank everybody for watching my videos and subscribing. It really means a lot to me. Just thank you. Thank you very much. Now let's get to the video. All right, here we are. Today we will be grinding on this Big Bear. It is Loveless style Big Bear. I'm using a 5-inch wheel, and I am grinding with a 50 grit orange blaze belt ceramic abrasive by Norton. So right now I'm just doing my fake plunges down to the grind line for my cutting edge. And then I'll remove all those little hills. So I've done a grinding video before, but I had someone ask for me to get in closer with the camera. This is as close as I can actually get without bumping while I'm grinding, because my hand is going out towards the camera there. So this is about as close as I could get. So I'm really only using about a 1/2 inch of the corner of the wheel there to kind of hog out that material. And then I'll come back in and I'll come in more with flat contact and just kind of remove those and try to blend everything in together while I'm going. So now that my check grind is finished, I will use the corner of the wheel again and use some upwards pressure to move the grind line down towards my scribe line. Now that I've done that, I'm coming in with the corner and moving it across to try to bring that plunge out across to create the grind. I'm still favoring the corner of the wheel so that I can work more aggressively with the 1/4 inch steel. This blade hasn't been heat treated yet. I'm just keeping it cool so that it doesn't scorch my hands. I do have gloves, but it still gets really hot when you're grinding. Sharper belt will keep the knife cooler, but you know, the belt will dull as you're grinding the knife, so it's just best to have a nice bucket of water by you and keep your knife nice and cool. So now that I have the grind going all the way down to the scribe line, I can push inward and move that grind in towards the cutting edge and kind of, clean that up a little bit and get that straightened out. Then I just touch it up with a little bit of blending and make sure that the grind looks nice and smooth, and that should be it. Move on over to the other side. Once again, I'll just come in with my practice plunges and make sure that I'm getting them all down to the scribed line that I have that marks out where my cutting edge will be. So I am again favoring the corner of the wheel just so that the belt will cut more aggressively and I can get in there more quickly. just like in my fading a grind video, I'll use less pressure at first and then increase the pressure while also increasing the upward pressure and inward pressure. So I'm doing light pressure, and then right when I make contact, I start pulling it across the wheel and pushing in and up at the same time, and kind of even twisting the handle of the knife in towards the wheel and the tip of the knife back towards me to try to give it that rounded effect. Now I'm just removing all the hills, blending that check grind, and making sure that the grind goes all the way down to my scribed mark for my cutting edge. Then I know that I'm at the final thickness that I have for my cutting edge. Now, using the same motion I was just talking about, I will favor more upward pressure rather than inward, and I'll just work on moving that grind down and establishing my plunge. This plunge helps you feel the wheel just set in place, and it makes a little groove, and then you can just work that groove out towards the tip of the knife. Now I put the wheel or the knife a little more parallel to the wheel and start moving that whole grind line down and making sure that it's parallel with my scribed line before I start pushing up harder and lining it up. And then as long as I keep it parallel, I'll be able to stop everything at the same time when it reaches that scribed line. So there are a few wobbles out there towards the cutting edge, so I'll go in and rest the wheel in that groove, but just apply a little extra inward pressure and move that grind back towards the cutting edge that I have scribed out, and the check grind was there to make sure I don't go past it, and then I've got it cleaned up. Now we'll do the same process on the main bevel and make sure that we're going all the way to that cutting edge scribed line. This is a pretty decent angle for the fading of the grind on the practice plunge. You can see my left hand moving in towards the grinder and my right hand moving out, and that's creating that rounded effect. This is the technique that I use for fading a grind. And especially on the thick 1/4 inch steel, I really feel that this saves me a little bit of time for hogging out all this material for my check grinds. It normally takes quite a while just to grind through everything if you're doing it the old-fashioned way, where you're just doing one pull, then another pull, and you got to get through all of that material. So I feel like any way that you can get a little more aggressive and remove more material faster is just going to be a time saver in the long run. So now I'll just go back across and I will remove all of these high spots and get everything flush with my scribed line of my cutting edge. I'm running my machine at about 50% power. This I feel gives me a little bit extra control and makes life just a little bit easier for me. Alright, so we got the check grind established. That's to make sure that when I'm doing the rest of my grind, I don't go too deep and get past my cutting edge, the material I want for my cutting edge. Now that that check grind is done, I can come in and make my plunge line. Now after I've done the plunge, I'll drag that out across the main bevel. I'm pushing pretty hard, just trying to remove as much of the material as I can before I get to that line, or the scribed line. I'm just going to make sure that everything is staying nice and parallel and using upward pressure to push that grind down towards my scribe line. You'll want to back off on pressure the closer you get to that final line, just to make sure that you don't, blow right past it. And check very often that you're not going too far. Right now I am kind of blending that plunge line into my main bevel and trying to clean that up and make it look more like it's one grind rather than two separate things. Now I'm working that last little piece of the main bevel right before the clip grind comes in and changes the angle of that main bevel. Now I'm using some blending pressure. This is inward pressure to get my grind to the cutting edge and make sure that all of that check grind disappears. I don't want any wobbles up towards the cutting edge. And then I'll come back through and blend everything together. So this next part is a little different too. Not a lot of people do it like this. In fact, I might be the only person that does it like this, but I really feel that this gives me a better result and it's a little easier to remove this material at this funky angle by doing it this way. So I hold the knife kind of at an angle there and I'm just using the corner to establish this groove and remove this material, and then I'll grind it together a little more traditionally. But like I said, I feel this just gives me a better result. Now I'll just come back through and blend it together in the traditional style, but all of that is already ground in and established, so it's very simple and very easy to just get in there and clean it up. The grind on the back on that clip is what's going to create that, that iconic Loveless S grind. So if you just grind straight on through all of that material, you're gonna end up with it just grinding straight out towards the point, and there won't be any curve to the grind, and you're gonna lose that effect. So you kind of have to swoop around it. Now that we have the part of the main bevel that runs parallel to the clip grind cleaned up, we can start dropping the handle as we get out towards the edge of the wheel and blend all of that into the grind that's out there on the tip. It's basically just the grind that was there from when I did my check grind. So switching hands and moving to the other side of the wheel, I will put in my practice plunges and move down the blade and start working on my check grind. So you can see my right elbow is pretty high up in the air there. You'll have better control if you can keep both of your elbows tucked in to your side. But since, the Big Bear has like an 8.5-inch blade, it's kind of hard for me, I'm not the biggest guy in the world, to hold this blade all awkwardly and grind across the whole thing. So my elbow does kind of tend to drift up. It's not the best technique, and if you can have your elbows tucked in, you're going to have a better result in your grinding. So I like to keep my knives dry. You probably see me drying off my knife quite a bit. I do this to keep my gloves dry because if your gloves get wet, then the heat is just going to pass through them faster. So dry gloves will keep your hands cooler, theoretically. Currently I'm using about the center of the wheel to use flat pressure and push in and remove that first hill, that first high spot. And then I'll just come back across and remove all of these, and moving it back and forth is just going to use more of the belt and help to blend all of that together as you're moving down the blade towards the where the hilt will rest. Alright, so the check grind is done. We can go ahead and start establishing the plunge line and getting that groove in there. And that will help us to move that grind all the way down that line and give us a nice stable seat for the wheel to rest in. All right, now that that plunge is established, we will just use that to set the wheel in, and we'll push in hard with pretty much with blending pressure upward and inward at the same time, equal, and move it down towards the tip of the knife. We're still favoring the corner of the wheel as it's going to remove material quicker. The more confident you are with your grinding, the further you can angle that knife and get even more aggressive with just the very corner and very edge of the wheel. Then once I've got it hogged out, I'll come back across with more flat on the wheel rather than on the corner, and I will use the whole wheel to try to move that grind line down parallel to my scribed line. Now that the bottom line is finished, I'll come back in with the inward pressure and start cleaning up the cutting edge and making sure that it is blended in nicely with the rest of that grind on my main bevel. Now is time for blending pressure. I will come in equal upward and inward pressure using the whole face of the wheel. I will start going back and forth and just making sure that the whole grind is one facet and not like 20 different facets. That's the goal. All right, it's all blended. I will flip the knife and I will start doing that little tiny area right there. Just using the very corner of the wheel and trying to keep that line nice and parallel with the clip grind. Quick and easy, that was ground in. Now I'll just blend that area together and make it look like it flows evenly. With that small section blended, I will go ahead and move down the knife and blend that bevel into the tip of the knife. You might end up with some funky facets, so just come across the cutting edge and come across the bottom grind line and just blend it out on all the areas, coming across the middle, the top, and the bottom, just to make sure that everything is blended really well. As you get out to the tip, you can hear it do a high-pitched noise. That's less material out there. You'll want to use less pressure. Right there, you could hear it. Just be gentle and make sure that you don't push too hard and go past your grind lines. Now we can start in on the final grinds on the spine. We're going to come in and do all of these flat along the line that we have marked out. but then eventually we're going to come back and we're going to give the spine kind of a taper. So it's going to be thicker towards the ricasso, the flat of the knife, and it's going to thin out and taper down towards the clip of the blade. That'll just give us a smooth transition between the ricasso and the cutting edge, which is, you know, a 1/4 inch and then like thousandths. All right, last practice plunge. We'll just start removing this material. Like I said, right now we're just going to keep it all straight with the line that we have scribed out. And then one of the last steps will be blending that all in together and making sure that it's nice and tapered. All right, the check grind's finished. We're just gonna go ahead and do the plunge. Since this is just rough grinding, it doesn't matter if the plunge lines are perfect, and it doesn't matter if they line up precisely. I have lines for that later on when I'm using I think it's like 150 grit belt. It's the I think a X16 structured abrasive belt. And that's what I'll do my actual real plunges with. For right now, I'm just kind of hogging this out and making this material go away quickly. All right, so we did the plunge and we pulled that grind out along the grind line, and then we did the pushing in to clean up the spine of the knife. Now we're gonna do blending pressure to blend the spine grind and the, that bottom grind all in together as one grind. So we've finished the spine grind. Now we're going to blend it in with the grind on the clip. We're gonna drop that handle and go right into that clip grind, and we're gonna start blending and tapering that spine until it just blends in with the cutting edge of the clip grind. I'm going to try my best to just be quiet on this side and let all of you discern for yourselves what steps are going on at which times. that is it. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate all of you coming by and checking out me grinding this blade. Thanks for staying all the way to the end for those of you that are actually hearing this. Good luck with your knife making, and I wish you the best. Bye. Hey everybody, I just thought that I would do a little finish shot here after I have this all ground. I even got the tang tapered here so you can see the grinds. Got that S curve going on. That's from this grind right here, cutting into this grind right here. And we're leaving material right here, which normally would be ground away if we did our bottom grind first. So we did our top grind first, then we came out, we did our plunge, we brought it across, we did this funky little grind right here and blended it all together, then blended it out here, then we came back across, did our plunge here, brought it out, blended all of this together, and then we went ahead and put this taper in. So it's about the thickness of the cutting edge here. It's about the full thickness of the spine here. It's the full thickness of the steel here. It's about 1/4 inch, a little over. And this is where I will actually bring my grinds back to when I'm doing my actual plunge lines. Have that on both sides. All right. So hope you guys enjoyed the video. Good luck on all your knife making, and I will see you next time. Bye.